This was a thesis I had in regards to Nike, and then I talked to someone that didn't confirm it. He doesn't have inside information, but seemed to think that based on the people that he knows that my thesis was correct. So, which is that the Nike accountants looked around, did the math on younger Americans, and realized it was not close. That younger Americans are overwhelmingly progressive. So that supporting Kaepernick, even though it's considered by older Americans as controversial, which would have been unthinkable for a giant brand like Nike, when they actually looked at the numbers, were like, no, we should do the so-called controversial thing. You only think it's controversial because you're 55 or 65 or 75. But well, some of us are almost there, right? So, but for a younger generation, supporting Kaepernick is not remotely controversial. In fact, it'll sell more product. And because people will be so excited about what we've done that they're more likely to buy Nike. And the progressive younger people are about 80% progressive. So if you excite 20% of them, 30% of them, that'll way more than make up for the tiny percentage that is now conservative, losing interest or burning their Nikes.
Doesn't explain why Rockport also endorsed Kaepernick.
Rockport?
Those are the old people.
I forgot about those. Yeah.
we know it's very true.
No, but isn't that
we know where New Balance
encouraging?
is?
Right. No, it is encouraging. I also think that there's the idea that any publicity is good publicity. There were probably people at Nike who thought that too. But you're right. I mean, on balance, you're 1,000% right.
And so to that point, real quick, on Nike for a second, and then we'll have a little bit of fun here by doing the superheroes that we promised you guys. So I read an article by Kaepernick that we almost did on the show, but as usual ran out of time. Who can find time in a 6-hour broadcast? Where Nike made, I think it was at the time, which is at the end of last week, $163 million in free media. Okay,
yeah, right.
To your point, that is a giant win.
It's crazy.
Yeah. On the other hand, on the first day that they announced it, because the people who are in the stock market are old, they thought it was crazy controversial, and they didn't crash the stock, but the stock dipped, so it cost them about $3 billion. Isn't that fascinating?
It's crazy. I was in Congress that day. I was on the Hill, and Barry Loudermilk, who's a very conservative representative from Georgia, like a good old boy guy, was talking to another representative. I forget who it was.
Is he from Albany?
He's not from Albany. No, he's not from Albany. He definitely not from Albany. Albany was like part of the civil rights movement. Barry Loudermilk is from another part of the state.
Yeah.
But he said to his colleague, and I don't know who it was, his back was to me, he said, "Can you believe Nike? I mean, they just want to go out of business." You know? And I looked at my cameraman, I was like, "You gotta be kidding me, this is just great. I wish we had that on camera."
See, but that's an excellent microcosm of what's happening in the country. So on a night like this is another microcosm. So the New York race that we've been covering all night, the big progressive candidates lose. Cynthia Nixon loses. Jumaane Williams loses his bid for lieutenant governor. That was a much closer race. Zephyr Teachout, we had a lot of high hopes for, and at this point it looks like she has lost her bid for attorney general. But you go further down, and there was all these IDC incumbents that were constantly kept voting with the Republicans and were doing old school politics and thought they weren't going to get caught. Well, looks like they got caught, because 6 out of the 8 have already lost. It'd probably be that count by the end of the night. So 3/4 of the IDC guys wiped out. There's another socialist who won in the state of New York tonight. Lots of young progressives like Jessica Ramos winning, and so younger generation coming up the ranks as some of the old guard holds on. And my guess is Nike stock price will go back up and then up and up and up, because they made the correct calculation. So that's in the business world, but in the voting world, that is why the Trumps of the world are so angry, and his voters. You think like hey, you guys are in charge. What are you so angry about? They know that they're hanging on by their fingernails. And the number that I keep repeating to you guys, because I think it is everything, is that in 2016, white evangelical voters had an 85% voter turnout. That's
amazing.
Unbelievable, unprecedented. And 81% of them voted for Donald Trump. So they are never going to have that kind of numbers again. And he ran against the worst possible candidate who was totally pro-establishment in an anti-establishment era. And he lost by 3 million votes anyway. And he squeaked by on 78,000 votes in 3 states that gave him the Electoral College. If they keep going like this, and they certainly are going like this, they might never win another national election. And it's the way that the demographics are going for the younger generations. So tick, 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 tick.
I would agree with you, except their opponents are Democrats.
Yeah, look, if anyone can find a way to snatch defeat from the jaws of victory, it is the Democratic Party, and they're trying hard right now.
Right now. Yeah. They want to run Bloomberg now. Today there was a headline, Bloomberg's going to run a billionaire from New York against a billionaire from New York. What the hell is the matter with people? So I tweeted out, said, number 368 way for the Democrats to lose again. That's what, there it is.
So they'll try hard, and we'll try hard. And so, and that brings us to where we are right now, which is, this is the last night of the 2018 primaries. The next election we'll cover is the general election. Don't miss that, November 6th. That's going to be a gigantic night. Always tyt.com/live on election nights. So what we told you at the beginning of the 2018 primaries was 2018 is a warm-up act. If we can get some just Democrats in the Congress and we can get some progressive victories, that'll set up 2020. So far, we got a lot more victories than anyone would have expected, and perhaps we would have expected. 26 Justice Democrats have moved on to the general election. 7 are nearly guaranteed victories and will go to Congress. And then you've got governors like Ben Jealous, governor or gubernatorial candidates right now, like Ben Jealous, and they have a shot at winning their races. So if right now we have made these strides within this Democratic Party that does not want to relinquish the old ways in the warm-up act, now imagine what we could do in 2020. Because every year we gain in strength and they lose in strength. And when I say we and they, I mean progressive challengers versus the establishment. And the Republican Party is clearly the establishment, but so is a lot of the Democratic Party. So in this case, time is our friend. Now, at the same time, they know that. So going in the opposite direction is their quest to close the window on us before we have demographic and ideological advantages they cannot overcome. So how do they close the window? One is money in politics. So tonight, Andrew Cuomo won convincingly. Now there's a lot of different reasons for that. We talked throughout the night about the power of incumbency, etc. Another reason is the stat John gave earlier in the night. At the end of the election, Cynthia Nixon had spent $450,000. Well, that's a lot of money. Andrew Cuomo had spent $8.5 million. So did that have a lot to do with it? Of course, it's a giant amount of money. So the more they have money in politics, the more they can protect their incumbency and their establishment and their status quo. Now, the other way that they close the window is you kill net neutrality. This internet is driving us crazy, keeps pointing out the things that we're doing wrong, and we can't. It's whack-a-mole. Let's say we shut down this organization, and then the Guardian reports that they go after them, and then TYT does it. We go after them, and then the Intercept does it. God, it's driving them crazy. You kill net neutrality, and maybe you close that window. And if you close enough windows, we can have all the advantages in the world, but they can lock up power. Look, another thing that is happening right now on the Republican side is democracy, schmocracy, right? They are literally challenging the idea of the 17th Amendment. If you're not familiar with the 17th Amendment, I don't blame you. It's the direct election of senators. They're saying, do we really have to have direct elections? What, right? So why do you do that? You do that if you think, I got no chance at a democracy. I'm not gonna win at the national level. I gotta end this thing. And look at all the things that Trump is doing. oh, the dictators are great. They make their people stand up and applaud for them. They should do that for here. Do we really need rule of law? This attorney general, why won't he investigate my political opponents? He says it brazenly out in front of everybody. Why won't he just let me go even if I break the rule of law? In other words, let's just get rid of democracy. So, but that goes to their desperation. If they cannot close that window, that's why I think 2020 is everything. It's everything. If they close the window on us, then I don't know what happens. But if they can't close it in time and we get our candidates in 2020, they're toast because the future is totally ours. Thanks for watching this free clip of the Young Turks. Don't forget to become a TYT member today. For more exclusive content, join now at tyt.com/join.